Fantasy and Some Flights, exploring the realms of beer, board games, books, and bourbon.
Welcome to another Fireside episode with Fantasy and Some Flights. I'm Nelson.
I'm Dalton.
And we are back.
It's
been a while.
It has been a while. It's mostly my fault. Moving is complicated, and we had a little trouble getting our stuff actually here with the moving company.
I don't know if a little trouble was the right adjective to use there, Dalton.
I know, right? It was actually a lot of trouble, but now I can't tell you their name because I'm sure there's like legal implications or something, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
But as a part of that, I did not have recording equipment in Colorado, and so now we have been delayed, but we are back. We're starting off with the Fireside episode so we can kind of ease into it. We can get these like lots of topics that have been accumulating that we're excited to talk about. Yep. We can just kind of dump those in a Fireside episode. Then we can pick up next week with a book episode.
Looking forward to the book episode. I'm looking forward to this episode as well.
For sure.
Like, I got a notification from OneDrive that I needed to up my storage capacity just because of how many notes I've been taking about all of my table and on what's been on my mind. And so that's been a problem. Who knew text
like,
could take up so much? Yeah, dude, chill.
Just at least chill. Delete the pictures. Like,
all right. So as always, we are drinking, even though we are apart. We are drinking.
Yes.
Dalton, do you want to start us out? What's on your flight tonight?
Yeah, I'll start us off. I'm drinking a new beer from Dry Dock Brewing Company.
That was very sexy. I'm keeping that.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. DDBC. You can come up with your own name if you want to, just using the acronym or the initials, I guess. But anyway, they are in Aurora, Colorado, so in the Denver area, greater Denver area brewing company, which is one reason I wanted to like host them tonight. I like picked up this 6-pack shortly after moving in, where I was like, well, I'll just go and I'll just pick up like 2 6-packs from like a local store, and I'll feature one on the podcast. Unfortunately, I got this one because it was on sale.
Nice.
Because they
Very
had
nice.
a lot of it left, and I think I had figured out.
Oh, no.
Why they had a lot of it left. It's not actually bad. When I say that, it makes it sound bad. But this is their hazy IPA. It's just called hazy IPA.
Clever.
We didn't talk too much about hazy IPAs, right, in our beer episode recently.
We did not.
But it kind of just comes from being unfiltered, right, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And they tend to have, at least this is my like novice opinion of them. I know that you come to our podcast for Dalton's novice opinions.
That's why I'm here.
Like, I haven't like researched, but I believe that they tend to have fruitier flavors or be on the fruity end of the scale of IPAs might be one way to think of it.
Yep.
This one, for whatever reason, I think just kind of got a little washed out. Like we had talked where in the beer episode where a lot of IPAs are trying to tend towards balance and like backing off of heavy hops and or maybe not even heavy hops, but just heavy bitterness and balancing that with nice fruitier flavors. And this one, I think, in an effort to try and be balanced, ended up just being kind of like a little bland.
Mediocre.
Actually. Yeah, mediocre.
That's a bummer.
So it's a little lemony is like basically the main fruit that's coming through. So it ends up being nice for like a hot day by the pool. It's like, oh, this is fun.
Okay, yeah.
Or like a canoeing beer or something like that. But yeah, probably not one I would pick up again. So unfortunately, probably a 1 cheers on the Fireside episode. But I'm getting through my. I think I have one more. So, but I saved the good beer for next episode. So the other one I got was the other one. Just spoiler alert, is definitely a 4 cheers. So it was two. It was like both the very successful and very unsuccessful beer trip. So
interesting. Okay.
Yeah,
well, I also have a 4 cheers for our next episode. So
very nice.
I'm excited for that. That's going to be a fun flights.
Yeah, fun flight section.
Nice.
So that's what's on for me. What's on for you?
So I am actually drinking a beer, and so I'm drinking from Dogfish Head. It's called the Slightly Mighty Low Cal IPA. And so recently I've been kind of like trying to watch my weight a little bit. I've been doing kind of a low carb diet thing. And so one of the things that the Gamecasters are doing right now, they're doing a weight loss challenge. And so I figured I'd talk about that a little bit. It's been kind of fun. We're weighing in, and he's doing like different stats each week, like how many meeples have we lost as a collective group and just stuff like that. But so I've been kind of like going with the lower carbs, which is why I've been drinking a lot of whiskeys recently. But this one is actually an IPA. And so when I did want my beer fix when I'm on this low carb diet, I would have to go to like a Miller Lite or a very sad like Michelob Ultra or something like that until I found this beer, which is it's only about 3 carbs per can or per 12 ounces, and it almost tastes like an IPA. So it's like nice. So
Nice.
it's if you're not trying to go for low carb, I would not pick it up at all. But if you are trying to do a low carb thing, this one is actually pretty tasty after
Good.
you haven't had IPAs for a long time. So that's what I'm doing.
If you drink Mick Ultra for 6 months, then this
one
beer
actually has
tastes
flavor, and you can't-
amazing.
Yeah, it's a little bit harder to see through it. So so there's that.
It's like when you like sit in a hot tub, you know, and then you jump into cold water. Like,
Yeah.
That's kind of what's happening.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm glad that you have an option for an IPA like beer, because I know that has been something you've missed.
It's definitely nice to have. I had no idea that this was available. Also, so just like random, real quick, I think I may have talked to you about this already, but when I went to go pick up beer for you at the liquor store near where I worked when I was coming up to see you, I went and did their pick 6 section, which was like an entire like wall, and like so this liquor store is like a giant Walmart type place, like it's huge, but it was like a whole wall full of pick 6 options.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, this is like a nice selection. Then like the last day that I was coming up to see you, I was like walking down a random aisle. There's a whole nother aisle of just like pick 6, like 300 to 500 more beers to choose from. And I was just like, I don't know how I missed this the entire time, but I was like, okay, well, whatever. But it was just
that
like
would
insane.
be extremely difficult to like drink your way through.
Yes. Yeah,
You know,
there's a
at that
significant
point.
amount of analysis paralysis into that goes into that decision.
Yeah, absolutely.
Alrighty, so let's get into kind of some of the stuff that we have been doing.
Yeah.
Dalton, do you want to talk about? I think there was a Twilight Imperium game that was going on the Discord.
As a matter of fact, there was.
Oh yeah, tell me about this.
There was a recent. We organized a TI4 game, as you know, as the cool kids like to call it, Twilight Imperium, if you're unfamiliar. That we organized through the
Nice.
Discord. It was really fun. We had we have done a Twilight Imperium episode like semi recently, and so I'm not gonna like talk through a bunch of TI stuff, except that we did play with the Prophecy of Kings expansion, which has been out for like a little over a year now.
I can't believe that's been that long. I remember talking about that.
Right,
on the
it was
podcast.
it was hard because it was like, I believe it was a pandemic release, and so everyone was like, "This is awesome. How do we play it?"
Yeah, it's already hard enough to schedule a game of TI4. Throw a
Right.
pandemic in there, and it's just almost impossible.
exactly. And like, as much as I love the game, like it is so hard to play on tabletop. Like
I can't imagine.
yeah, it's so hard to keep track of everything, and your turns just take so much longer because like moving everything around is clunky, and so you got to really want it. Now we did really want it, so we had a lot of fun. One of the better things that they did is they released a fix for like the 5 and 7 player problem that Twilight Imperium has, where it's on a hexagon board, and so it's fractal, right? It's like a hexagon made up of hexagons. So at 6 players, hexagons are 6-sided. Everybody starts in a corner, right? And that works out fine. But in 5 player, previously you had to, like, somebody had to start closer than other people, and that was a huge disadvantage, and there was no way to balance it out correctly. The way that they fixed that is they introduced like hyperlanes, which are sort of like a wormhole. They function a little bit differently, but they basically just make 2 things adjacent. And so if you play with 5 players, everybody still starts in a corner, and then like the 6th kind of corner of the board gets taken up by these hyperspace lanes, which make sure that the 2 players that are on either side of them have the same amount of like distance as if they were next to each other.
That's really
portion
cool.
of the board. So it is.
So like I've been seeing on Instagram, it's like a tile that has like curves or like lines on it. Is that what those are?
Yes.
Okay.
If
I
you
was always
track it,
wondering what those were.
yeah, if you track it, it's like 1 for 1, where
Oh, okay, cool.
like if like my home system would have like 3 things next to it, and those would like normally connect to like certain coordinate home systems of my neighbors. The hyperlanes go like 1 for 1 with that, so they are like perfectly
That's
aligned as if you were just like, and it's like when you look at it, you're like, that is such a simple fix, and like it just totally works.
Yeah.
And it's great because it's like, okay, we always had to schedule like 4 or 6, or if you had the expansion, an 8-player game, because 5 and 7 just didn't really work.
Right.
And so now we ended up at 5, and it worked perfectly fine. So really enjoyed that. I played the Volwraith Cabal.
That sounds new.
I know, yeah, they're one of the expansion races.
Okay, cool.
They take advantage of like a capture mechanic. So like if you destroy an enemy's unit, you capture it and like put it in your play area, and then that player cannot like rebuild it, and then you basically can like sell it back to them. Or you can like this race specifically can like give it back to the player in order to like build the unit for free. So like that's kind of like their main kind of quirk. So you can like rush into people's territory. Normally in Twilight Imperium, you like expend all of your resources doing that, and your army kind of like dies out. In this one, as long as you're still killing people, you can like rebuild your army because you're just like killing with like whatever units you're capturing.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so they had some extra mobility and stuff, and so I really enjoyed playing them. We had a very close game. There were 3 of us who were in a position to win. I ended up winning because of basically just kind of because of the way things worked out, just kind of because of player order and that sort of thing, and the like cards I was able to take. So, but a lot of skirmishing, a lot of like very active gameplay, a lot of like big surprise moments from players, a lot of politicking, like a lot of backdoor messaging going on, and people getting backstabbed and stuff. So
nice.
It was a lot of fun, really successful game for us.
Good. Do you feel like preparing / listening to the episode helped you win this game?
I'll be honest, I reviewed the show notes.
Nice.
Like my own show notes, because I was like, what did we talk about?
Yeah.
But it was just like the fastest way to be like, oh, that's right. I do need to buy blue tech, like stuff I know, but like I just wanted it in like the front of my mind. So yeah, I gave the show notes like a quick perusing. And I did it like in 2 minutes, like it didn't take me long, just to kind of bring everything back to the front of my mind.
So my guarantee holds up that you will win the next game of Twilight Imperium. Oh, I can't actually say that because I'm assuming that people played with you actually listened to the
They did, yeah.
So, well, I don't know. 3 people were close, and those 3 people listened to the episode.
That's right. That's right.
That's what we'll go with.
That's what we'll go with. I don't know that that's actually true, but that's what that's what I'm saying,
fine.
and we'll stick it to it.
Yeah. Well, if they don't listen, they will never know that we said that. So
yeah, for sure. And again, just to plug the Discord, I know we probably don't do enough of that, but it was really fun to be able to schedule something like Twilight Imperium, to have this community of people who are like-minded, and some of the people who played were very interested in it, and some people had like played once or twice before and just wanted to play again. So like ranges of people who were competitive, but kind of being able to offer that to people, I think was a lot of fun. And so outside of even our normal game night, because we would never be able to do a Twilight Imperium on like our normal game night, right?
Right.
But we are totally open to, if you haven't played enough Brass Birmingham, or you haven't played enough Great Western Trail, or you bought this new game and you want to try it with a group of gamers before you introduce it to a group of non-gamers or something like that. We have a lot of people who are looking for games to jump into. So definitely take advantage of that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a lot of fun. And you don't even necessarily need to know how to set it up on Tabletop Simulator or Board Game Arena. A lot of people already know so much more about that than I ever will, and so they're more than happy to help set that up and help run it. So
for sure,
if that's a barrier, don't let it be. Yeah, no, that sounds awesome. I'm glad that you were able to play that. It's really cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, we had a lot of fun.
Did you think that the new race, which I have already forgotten the name, did you think that they were interesting and fun, or they just kind of like around? Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, good question. And the name is like super complicated. They're like, we call them the dragons because they look like a dragon. Okay, I can remember that.
Yeah, the dragons.
Ender's Fleet.
Right, exactly. Yeah, they were a ton of fun. I would totally play them again. We have had a lot of people kind of cycling through the like new races, and so there were 2 other of the 5 people that played. 3 of the races were from the expansion.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So the one that I played, and then two other players. So that was really fun for me too, because one of them I had seen played before, but another one was new. And I think everyone at the board underestimated how strong that third one was. The one that we hadn't seen. They're basically like a destroyer race.
Oh, okay.
He was doing just crazy things. And destroyers are like the cheapest unit that's its own ship. Like fighters are technically cheaper, but they're not really their own ship. And so this specific race kind of like they take advantage of destroyers. And there had been some races before that were kind of playing around with destroyers, but this one's like very, very dedicated to them and gave them some extra ability. Like there were times where I was like sending massive fleets to destroy like four of his destroyers, and it's like, come on, like this is ridiculous. Like I shouldn't have to be going this far out of my way. there was more than one time where I just tried to capture his destroyers and just keep them. I ended up using them and giving them back, but
Oh yeah.
just like removing them from the board so he had fewer destroyers because they were so scary.
That's hilarious.
So yeah, so far from what we have seen, the new races are very interesting and exciting and even very challenging to play against.
Well, that's exciting to hear. I always hate it when an expansion adds a new race that is either very underwhelming or way too powerful. But it seems like they did a nice balance there, where it feels like they are playable, they're interesting, and that you want to be playing them. So that's exciting.
Because they did add a lot. They added 7, and that's a lot.
Oh wow, I did not realize that they added that.
Yeah. And there's one or two that I'm like, I'm not sure I'm super interested in that. But like one race is kind of funny. It's actually just like it's the Nomad, like it's one guy, and it's like the flagship race. Like he can like upgrade his flagship, and like that's his whole thing. It's like he just like is one dude who has this enormous flagship, and so
that's interesting.
Yeah, some of them are like, I don't know if that's actually good, but like it's quirky and it looks fun to play. So what about you? Have you had things on your table recently?
To quote the Mad Board Gamer, I've been playing some games. So we've been playing a lot of games, and we do not have enough time to talk about all of the games that I've been playing. Mm-hmm. However, I wanted to focus on kind of 2 things in this episode. The first will be a little bit shorter because I have found myself talking about it in every single episode / every aspect of my life, and that is living card games. Yep. Those are taking over my life. They just announced Fantasy Flight just announced that they are reprinting Arkham Horror, the card game. So they're doing a revised core set, which I plan on picking up. They're adding a little bit more content in there, and right out of the box, it's set up so that you don't have to buy multiple core sets to play the game.
Oh, cool!
Effectively, which is really nice. I think they learned that from Marvel Champions, and so. I plan on picking that up. I've been playing Lord of the Rings, but the main one that I've been playing is Marvel Champions. And what we've been doing is me and another Instagram friend, Jason, he's D20 Woodworking. We have been streaming some of our games. So we've been doing not necessarily every week, but we've been trying to tackle maybe every other week. We've been streaming some games where kind of, we have the whole setup. We have cameras, we have health laid out, and we're playing 2 players, and we're trying to do like funky combinations and stuff like that. And so it's been a lot of fun, one, to play with a second player, because a lot of this I've been playing solo, and so the second player really adds another dynamic to the game. Having that, we're streaming typically on Wednesdays, so it's on YouTube, and so the videos stick around. So if you want to go check them out, we get creamed. It's pretty funny. We like thought we were way better, and so we're like, we're gonna take on this guy on expert, and we like got smashed. Like it was bad. But we've been doing like our last video, we each ran aggression, and so instead of trying to balance everything out, we were just trying to rush we were
just winning like 3 turns.
Winning 3 turns. Let's see how it goes. So I've been having a lot of fun with that. So you can find that on our YouTube. I'll put a link in the show notes if you want to go check out some of those videos. I will say that the video quality is fairly poor, and that's because turns out you're not supposed to be streaming off a laptop you bought 12 years ago. So there is that. But
something we are actively trying to fix, but computer chips are expensive.
Yes. Turns out GPUs do not cost they cost way more than they used to.
Yes.
But I actually did buy a computer, so I'm excited.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I went with like a shitty GPU, so it wasn't absurdly crazy.
Yeah, so you didn't break your bank.
Yeah, because I'm not playing a lot of games right now, and so that's kind of where the GPU comes into play.
Right.
But I'm excited. We'll have to play some computer games as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I want to try your Guns of Icarus game.
Oh, break it back out.
Bring it back out, yeah.
Guns of Icarus is a game that was like beta for like forever when we were in college, and then it released and it didn't do very well. But I played a bunch of it in college. I haven't checked on it. I assume it's still running, but I don't actually know that for a fact. But that would be fun to I'm sure it's totally different now, because it's been 6 years or something since I played it.
Oh, absolutely.
Be really fun to try.
So yeah, go check it out. We're having a lot of fun with it. So
and I'm excited for you guys. I think getting into streaming now, it's first of all, it's super accessible, but there isn't a ton. There is board game space in streaming, but there's not there's not as much as video games, right? Video games is just hugely dominant. there are a couple of people, like we know D20 Woodworking primarily through like our Board Avengers group.
Yep.
Which like it's funny to me, by the way, that like every time you guys play like an Avengers based deck, it's like,
Nice.
Yes, exactly. The Board Avengers friend, you guys are playing Avengers.
Yes.
Yeah, that's super cute.
That's hilarious.
Right. But anyway, there's a couple in that group that stream as well. So it's becoming a bigger medium for it. But I think it's really cool that we're able to kind of participate. You specifically are able to kind of participate in the space. So
yeah, absolutely. I'm hoping to do more like different games as well, because it's really easy to stream TTS. And we had talked about wanting to kind of do some commentary on some of the games that we've been playing. So I think that would be kind of fun to do at some point as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
commentary. We got stuff to say, man.
Yeah. We don't know. We're not good at it, but man, we can judge. We can judge good.
Yeah.
The other thing that I kind of wanted to talk about are roll and write games. We have kind of mentioned roll and write games on the podcast before, and it's not a genre that I think that we wanted to kind of dive in and do a full episode on, but I wanted to talk about some roll and write games or flip and write games that I've been playing recently, because it's been a genre that I really did not think I would enjoy. And it turns out that I actually really enjoy these games. Like when someone described it to me, I was like, that does not sound fun. But then every single one that I've played, I've really enjoyed myself. I've been talking a lot. Dalton, do you want to describe roll and write games real quick?
Sure, yeah. I think the first one we played was Welcome To. Or maybe
correct.
the one we played together.
Or Yahtzee, yeah.
That's right, true. Yeah. Yahtzee, Nelson's right, is like roll and write games are essentially Yahtzee. Something random happens in the middle of like the play area, and then everyone has to typically write like physically on a pad of paper or something, some sort of score sheet, a way that they kind of like score that random thing. I think a common like mechanism of roll and writes, or maybe a distinguishing characteristic, is that the randomness is kind of shared in either in part or in whole. So like Welcome To, for instance, there's like a deck of cards and like 3 of them are dealt up, and everybody simultaneously chooses one of those 3 cards to kind of like play on their active player sheet. They like write down something like the number that's on that card, and the type of card just determines where they can write it down and that sort of thing. And then like once everybody's written something down, you do the next round. And so theoretically 2 players could actually have the exact same score at the end of the game, because they could have written down the exact same things over the course of the game, because they were exposed to the same amount of randomness. But most of the time, because the game is so long and because there's so many choices that are being made, and the choices that are made earlier affect the availability to take choices later, players end up with very vastly different scores. And so it's really rewarding to look across and see who won, because you know it was like a really earned victory. It wasn't like, oh, he just rolled really well and won the game or something like that.
Right. Yeah, no, that was a great definition. I think a lot of them have that. There are some that don't necessarily have the collective decision space, which I don't think I like as much because of what you were saying. You can have players that just roll better. But like Yahtzee is a good example, right? So like Yahtzee, you roll and you take your actions, and everyone else is kind of sitting there not participating.
Right.
And I think that's one of the things that I like more about the more modern roll and write games, is that everyone is always participating. There's very little downtime in these games. So you flip up, everyone takes their action. You're not waiting on someone to take their turn. And typically these are lower complexity games as well, so they're easy to get to the table. There are some higher complexity games, but I haven't actually played those. But I have been playing specifically 3. I've played a lot more, but specifically 3. One was Welcome To, which you mentioned before. We've been playing that. I've been playing That's Pretty Clever, or Ganshan Clever, which we played right before you moved.
Yeah.
Which
it's a terribly named game.
Yes. Yes. With Wolfgang Warsch, his other names are Quacks of Quedlinburg, Taverns of Tiefenthal, That's Pretty Clever, The Mind. Okay, so he has some hits and misses, I guess. But so that is one where it's not necessarily shared randomness, and I feel like that one feels like you can almost solve it, which is a little iffy. But I've also people are saying over 290 is a really good score, and I'm like, I haven't touched 280. This is insane. How do you do that? But so that's been kind of interesting. And then the last one, which I wanted to spend the most time talking about, is Cartographers. So Cartographers is by Thunderwork Games. It's by the same people who made Role Player. So it's in the same kind of universe as Role Player, which I think we've talked about before on the podcast. But one of a listener, a friend of the podcast, Matt, he let us borrow Cartographers to try, and I immediately bought it because I just thought that it was a phenomenal game. And it sounds like I said that like when you describe roll and writes, it's not something that I would typically think that I would enjoy. And Cartographers combines that with something else that I usually don't typically enjoy, which is polynomial shapes, like Tetris shapes.
Right.
And so basically in Cartographers, you have like this map, which is a blank map, and you're basically questing out to map like uncharted territory in the king's land, basically. So you're creating a map. And so similar to like Welcome to, you're flipping up cards and it gives you like a terrain type and a specific shape that you have to then draw in that shape and the terrain type. And typically there's a choice there. So maybe you get to choose between village or trees. Or you get to choose between two different shapes placed on your map. And
so there's also drawing involved.
Yeah, which is not great. It's played out over 4 rounds, and you have randomly distributed cards on how each round will score. And you know how future rounds will score. And so maybe in round 3, you're going to score for every column that there's a tree in, you get 1 point. So you're not going to score that in the first 2 rounds, but then you'll score it in the 3rd and the 4th round because you always score each objective card twice in the game. So you can plan, and so maybe you have like really low turns and then a really big 2 turns. Okay. So because you've been focusing on that, but this is my favorite roll and write that I have played so far. I just think that the implementation was incredible. It's kind of almost killed Welcome to for me a little bit. I still enjoy Welcome to, but I can't think of a reason why I would pull Welcome to out over Cartographers at this point. I am kind of running low on my pencils and Cartographers, so maybe that would be a reason to pull out Welcome to. But like other than that,
Welcome to has like a smartphone app.
That is actually really helpful. I highly recommend doing that. The only time that I do not use that app is when I need a picture for Instagram.
Right. So. And the Welcome to app is free. Also, there's like no reason not to use it.
Right.
But it sounds like that wouldn't really work, or would at least be extremely difficult to make work for cartographers.
Yeah. There is an app. It does cost, but I don't think it's like a score sheet. Like it's actually the game, which I haven't looked into. But yeah, no, I'm just having a lot of fun with that. There's like these monster attacks. So like when you flip up a monster, it's a different type of shape. It's worth negative victory points, but you pass your player sheet, like you pass it clockwise or counterclockwise. So the player sitting next to you draws onto your sheet to try and like optimize your negative points. And so there is a little bit of player interaction there.
Gotcha. Which is a little bit uncommon for roll and writes. They're usually more solitaire feel.
Yep. Yeah, I just wanted to talk about that a little bit and just kind of promote it because that is a game that deserves some of the it's gotten a good bit of hype, but if you haven't heard about it, I would definitely check it out if you are slightly interested in this genre of games because you can pick it up, you can play it in 20 minutes. And every single time, it's really great.
Yeah. So how would you rank like the complexity against like Welcome to or That's So Clever?
So it's rule wise. So that's pretty clever. Is probably the most complex, just because everything scores differently.
You do feel like in that game you have an overwhelming amount of choices.
Yes.
Because like you roll like 5 dice and then you have to choose like one of them to play, and then you do that like multiple times every turn, and each of them can be played in like a bunch of different ways, and so that can start to feel very overwhelming. Yep.
So I think that's probably the most complex. I think that this would probably be tied with a Welcome to in complexity, and that's like there's more choices, but the scoring is a little bit easier to understand than in Welcome to, because in Welcome to you have like 8 paths to score. Which, like, I was explaining the game this last weekend, and like as I was explaining, I was like, this is actually a little bit more complicated than I remember it being. Because like once you're playing it, when you're playing it on the app, it's fine. Like when you're starting to explain it, it's like, okay, the pools do this. You have to put it where there's a pool. You can put it in a park, and you mark off the park on that street, and so it kind of gets a little weird. You can't use Abyss where you already have a fence, and so there's a lot of like little caveats like that. Yeah. Whereas Cartographers is draw the shape, and if you can't draw the shape, draw a 1 square somewhere, and that's those are the rules.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I really am enjoying Cartographers, and I recommend that you check it out.
For sure. And it's good to know that they do have a mobile app because that is something that, especially now that I have moved and need to find a new gaming group, there's this gap where I'm going to struggle to play games unless it has like an app and I can play it by myself, right? I've been playing a lot of Mystic Vale.
Yep.
I've been playing a lot of Evolution and Oceans, and so it's good to hear that's like, oh, maybe I can go pick that one up and just like have something to kind of piddle around with while I'm trying to fill the time. So
interesting.
Good to hear.
So you said that you've been playing a lot of Evolution and Oceans. Is there one that you prefer?
I feel like at this point, for some reason, the Evolution app feels better to me, and I don't know if that's because I kind of picked up Oceans when like the app was like still relatively new, but the Evolution app has like a lot of content in it to explore. Like it has like a campaign and mode, and has a lot of different like computers that will like target certain strategies. So like you can.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so it will like try to force a carnivore strategy or like a big food strategy or like a defense or like a starvation strategy. Like it will try to like starve. It's like not a carnivore, but it's trying to like starve out and use things like long neck and other things to like stay alive. And it'll just throw like negative food icons into the watering hole.
That's really good. That's impressive that they programmed all of that in there.
Yeah. So
that's
there's
cool.
some good replayability for the app itself. But like if someone was going to pull out one of the games and play it on a table, like definitely Oceans. I think Oceans is a lot better of a game overall.
Do you play with the Deep? I think that's what it's called.
Like so like when I don't own Oceans. We had a game weekend where Harlan, one of our friends and listeners, brought Oceans and I got to play it. And I think I played it twice, and we played the second time with the Deep, or maybe I just like looked at the Deep cards or something like that.
The art is really, really cool.
Yeah, it's super cool. And it gives a feeling of like, I don't even really know how to describe it, but maybe sort of like I'm thinking of Twilight Imperium, but like in Twilight Imperium, you have your flagship, and it's something that is going to have like some, really wacky ability tied to it. And that's what the cards have. They are like something that is like kind of normal, but just like more powerful and has like a wacky ability tied to it. And so they kind of can be like strategy giving, because it's like, oh, now I'm going to like build myself around what this card can do because it's like so strong. They are like more expensive in the game to like get out, but can be really rewarding. And so I think like your first game, you can't really play with them because they can be really disorienting. But yeah, like now knowing the game, I would play with them every time.
I only played it once, and we did not play with the Deep, which I think was the right call. But
yeah,
I think it was lacking. It was lacking. What is the word?
Depth.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Okay. I was going to cut out my stumbling over words, but that was too good of a pun. I'm leaving that in. So, yes, it was lacking depth. It felt like there wasn't as interesting of decisions. It felt like kind of whoever got the right cards won. And I feel like the Deep kind of alters those strategies significantly. And that would be something that I'd be really interested in playing with at some point.
For sure. I think also like Oceans more than Evolution, your actions are a little bit scripted by like the cards that you are drawing. Like your cards will kind of lead you into something, whereas in Evolution, your cards like not using them and instead using them as a like resource. We talk a lot about like dual purpose cards, right? Evolution I think is very successful at that, in that you really do not have to use them like further. You can use them to build population or body size or get new dinos, and like all of that works super well. And I guess to finish that point, maybe Oceans doesn't necessarily do that as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also like the Evolution theme a little bit more. Dinos are cool, but
yeah, man, fucking dinosaurs, bro.
You wanna do an icebreaker?
Yeah, absolutely. We have our next book episode coming up. We have we're targeting kind of fight scenes, right? Kind of battle or fight scenes, and looking at how those impact a story. Looking at how those like why they are used and where they are used and what makes them powerful and why we like them so much and why they can also be cheap thrills sometimes and getting into all that type of discussion, right? So I heard that we had an icebreaker that kind of like tees us up for that conversation a little bit.
Yes, we do. It was submitted by Smalls, so she also manages all the icebreaker questions. So this is nice. But so her icebreaker question that's going to lead us into our battle/fight scenes episode is: what two characters would you like to see go head to head in a fight? So not necessarily from like the same universe.
You get to open it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Answer the big questions.
So I mean, like there are a couple. I mean, like this feels like I'm like 10 again, where I'm like, who would win in a fight?
Right.
Superman or Batman and the Flash.
Right, exactly. Yeah, we get to do a little bit of like team building here, right? Like,
Yeah.
you get to choose like,
Is there a draft? We should have a draft.
right. Pick your champion.
Yeah. So I think the one that immediately popped into my head was Vin from the Mistborn series, which we've talked about significantly already, and then Kaladin from the Stormlight Archives, which is the main character of the Stormlight Archives.
Nice.
So they're both like powerful in their
Sanderson.
own sense. Keep it Sanderson. They both have these really cool magic systems that they can pull on. They feel similar in character and like power levels. So I think that would kind of be interesting to kind of feel, and maybe like, maybe Kaladin would win in, the first book, but like as the story progresses and both of them get stronger, does that power dynamic shift? So I think that's my cheap answer. I'm going to see if I can come up with a different one though. So anything that's coming to your mind real quick?
I have like a couple of characters that are kind of coming to like the front of my mind. I think I'm thinking kind of like we haven't talked too much about this, but like, yeah, I'm sure we'll get into it, but like fights and battles and conflict that can take a lot of different forms. And I really like, the master strategist level, like characters, like not just like, hey, here's this super powerful godlike character, but here's this like this character that's like super powerful with like his brain.
The Enders.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And so coming to mind would be Paul Atreides from Dune, versus, and see, now I just want to say Peter Dinklage because in my mind it's Peter Dinklage, but Tyrion Lannister.
Okay,
from House Lannister in Game of Thrones, because I think like Tyrion, first of all, like actually both of them have like literal like battle and fight scenes that they do participate in, but they're both like strongest on like more of like a political front, right? Like getting all the work that happens before the fight actually happens,
Right.
And again, kind of that master strategist level conflict. And so I think even you could just extend that to like just dropping Paul Atreides into like the Game of Thrones space and just kind of like seeing what happens,
Yeah. Let's see what goes on.
Right. Which feels like a little bit like what he's trying to do with Bran, is like make him kind of a Paul Atreides type character.
Right.
Whether or not that's successful is up to debate, but that's what he's like. That's what it feels like he's trying to do.
I don't even know if it was debate. I will fight you on this. But
right.
That is a debate, isn't it? So, but okay, but
yeah, that's a type of conflict.
Yeah, there you go. See, it all circles. It all circles back.
But yeah, I think that would be my answer. I think that'd be a fun one to.
Oh yeah,
not like a one-on-one fight with like a sword or something like that, but more of the larger scale conflict.
Dude, I need to reread Dune. That is a book that I have not read in a while, and I really need to get that back to. I was gonna say to the table. That's not right. Back to the
to
Kindle.
the app,
to the Audible, to the headphones. There you go.
Back to my earbuds.
That's what we should, instead of what's on your mind, we should play we should change the section to what's on your headphones, or what's in your headphones.
What's in your ear?
Yeah. So I have one side of this down. So I've been kind of re-listening through the Lightbringer series because I ended up not finishing that.
And if you lose your place, it's really hard to.
Yep. So I thought so this is kind of funny. Like I picked the third book to listen through in Audible because like I made it through like half of the third book. So I was like, I'll just pick up at the beginning of the third book. Turns out I picked the second book, and that was a really good call. So
nice.
Because I was like, wow, I forgot about this. And then like I like logged in on Goodreads. I was like, book 2. I was like, oh wow. I would have just missed everything. So but the main character in Lightbringer is Kip, who is basically in Lightbringer you can draft different colors, and so like you can create this Luxin material from color, and each different type of Luxin, different color of Luxin has different properties, and basically the more you can draft, the more powerful you are. So there's like bichromats and like multichromats where they can draft multiple light levels of light. And so I'm thinking, so instead of Kip, let's go with Gavin. So Gavin is the prism, and that means he can draft any type of light. He has perfect kind of, not perfect pitch, but whatever that is for colors. He can perfect hue. So I want to see him go up against someone, and I don't know who it is yet, and that's where I want to tap you to try and figure out. Let's see if we can figure out an interesting fight between Gavin, who can draft all of these crazy colors, create this Luxin, basically like make himself like a green golem type thing and just go berserk on people.
Yeah.
So who would we want to see him go against?
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to compare magic systems.
It is. I was just thinking that like Lightbringer is a very hard magic system. We actually found it because Sanderson recommends it. So it's not written by Brandon Sanderson, but he really enjoyed it and he recommended it. And so that's
it kind of has that feel.
It does.
It feels like a Sanderson novel. So
yeah, for sure.
But it's like when you're comparing cross magic systems, typically a fight inside the same magic system can work and is effective because the magic system has counters or has ways to block. So like if you're thinking like Harry Potter or Avada Kedavra, that can be blocked. But like if you're going up against like Gavin, he's no way to block Avada Kedavra. So it's like, well, they just win that fight. Like that's a lopsided fight right there.
Right.
Unless like Luxin can block the killing spell, which I doubt it can. And so it's kind of like a very like, it seems very OP in one.
It does, yeah.
In one, but it's very easy. I guess not easily blocked, but it's blocked in Harry Potter.
For sure.
Right. So that's what I'm trying to think through.
Yeah, I feel like a couple of like powerful wizard-like characters come to mind, like Kavoth, right? Because he is like they're both extremely powerful in their own right, but also like very clever within their magic systems. Like Gavin is specifically like people talk about that he just like comes up with things that no one had like thought of before. And that's one of the things that makes him like really, really good.
That would be a really cool fight scene, Kavoth and Gavin.
For sure. Yeah, I think
that'd be interesting.
Or like in that similar vein, like Ged from, which is like such a weird name, like you say, and it's like, it's
right.
like, huh, are you okay? Like, were you clearing your throat? Like, no, I'm trying to say his character's name.
Sorry, I thought you were choking there for a second.
That's right. That's right.
I was about 3 seconds away from the Heimlich. So.
That's right. Yeah, Ged from the Wizards of Earthsea, or like the Earthsea series or whatever it's called, where I talked about that a little bit when I read it, but it's a very soft magic system. But Ursula K. Le Guin it's extremely well written. One of the first fantasy books to kind of really play into the idea of naming. And he, like Ged, is like really good at that. And he has to solve a lot of like very like tricky problems, and solutions with like his really powerful magic system aren't always like super obvious, even though you don't necessarily know the bounds of the magic system, which make for a pretty cool, I guess, balance, because that's a little bit uncommon, right? We don't typically see Gandalf just save the day. Because he's like, oh yeah, of course, like he's Gandalf, he can do anything.
So I guess in that sense, it sounds like a Ged Kavoth showdown would be kind of interesting to see as well. It seems like they're both pretty clever with how they're doing it.
For sure, yeah. They're just trading. It just comes down to who knows better, more names. But
yeah.
But yeah. And speaking of like knowing of names, right? We could also bring in like Aragon series, right? But he has a dragon, which is like a little bit cheating. It's like, okay, like it's a dragon,
Yeah.
What can you really do?
Yeah. Aragon and Saphira versus the Balrog.
There you go.
That'd be interesting. I feel like the Balrog would win that. I feel like the Balrog is way more powerful than we think it is.
Yeah, well, it's like Mayar level, right? So it's
right.
It's like on par with Gandalf.
Right.
Well, not specifically with Gandalf, but with Gandalf's kind.
Yeah.
Balrog.
I don't know.
There's some rules.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of interesting matchups out there. I'm interested to hear kind of what everyone else says. So if you do want to know, so we're going to post this in the Discord probably a day before this episode airs, as well as on Instagram. And so answer on those platforms. And I think that's how we're going to be kind of doing it going forward, is we'll post it the day before so that we have time to gather those and we can kind of read out the answers on our next episode. So leading into the fight scenes, we're going to hear all of the interesting and epic showdowns that you all want to see in fantasy. Well, yeah. So, anything else that you wanted to hit on in this fireside episode?
No, it's been great to get back
out?
into it. We're both looking forward to being more consistent about it. We're both, as I've kind of like started to settle in a little bit, hoping to, continue to get into more books and more games also, because on my end, both of those have been kind of lacking. And so I know that you have been very busy. I've been busy not playing games. So,
yeah, I mean, like moving across the country does take a little bit of time from your schedule.
Right.
But I do know that we have a Marvel Champions campaign.
We do.
Scheduled. So I'm very excited for that, and we'll be looking forward to talking about that more.
Absolutely.
So if you want to hear about that, tune into a future episode, probably in a couple months. But so, but yeah, no, same. Like I've been missing doing these, so I'm glad that we're finally back doing them.
Yep.
And I'm excited to do more.
We're back, baby.
Yep. So, as always, smash that subscribe button. Hit the little bell.
We do actually have a YouTube you can subscribe to now, though, because you're streaming. So I think that's becoming less of a joke.
Yeah, soon I'm going to sell out.
If you do it fast enough, you can be the 10th.
Yeah, we do have almost double-digit followers on YouTube, so
it's pretty intense.
Yeah, I will personally thank you if you go follow us and make us the 10th. Or bring us to 10 followers on YouTube. I will reach out to you personally and thank you. So
cool. All right.
But yeah, you can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, Discord. All of those links are going to be in the show notes. Looking forward to talking with you about epic showdowns and fight scenes. So
Absolutely.
awesome.
All right.
Cheers, buddy.
Cheers.